Just going to respond directly to your latest message that you sent me. Just to give anybody else who's watching a little background, Everett commented on one of my videos about inactivism, where I suggested that there is no objective world. And so I'm going to try to go into what I mean by that, but I'm going to answer his question specifically. I'm going to answer your questions, Everett, specifically to make sure that we're on the same page and that we can hopefully gain a better understanding of where each of us is coming from. So you said in your message, to say that the brain is a symbolic processor is, to my mind, to support that the language of thought hypothesis should be taken seriously, which I don't. So we agree on that point. Regardless of the mechanism, you say, I assume that there is an objective world, and that signals from this world interact with an objectively existing brain, which then creates subjective experience via various poorly understood tricks. As an analogy, you can imagine a computer storing the proposition, I exist, on its hard drive. And you emphasize that that's an analogy. Okay. I think I have a question about what it means for the objective brain to receive signals from the objective world, because I don't see brain and world as separated by any gulf that requires a signal to be transferred. I think the brain has arisen in this world, and throughout its entire evolutionary history of development, it's been coupled to this world. So there's no need for it to receive information from the world. It is directly linked to the world. In the analogy, you know, a computer that was programmed to say, I think, or I exist, excuse me, doesn't mean that it has a subjective experience. It's just been programmed to run that symbolic sequence of terms. So let's move on. Actually, this idea that consciousness is just this trick that we don't understand yet, I would rather not see consciousness as this bizarre paradox that doesn't fit into any of the rest of our understanding of science and epistemology. I would rather engage it head on and say, wow, what is this at the core of what we thought science was all about gathering knowledge from the world by means of representing it objectively. What is this conscious observer that's at the heart of that activity itself? I think we need to look into that with an open enough mind to admit we may need to change a lot of our assumptions about epistemology and what it means to have knowledge. So I'll go on. You said, you claim that we influence the world, and obviously measuring something influences the system, but to a very small extent. Are you saying that if I am not looking at my bed and nobody else is, then it doesn't exist? Be more specific about the extent to which you think observation determines the world, and why you think that way. I don't think when you don't look at your bed that it disappears. I'm not asserting that kind of a naive idealism. There is a history of coupling between your organism and the world. And through this history of coupling, a certain degree of stability arises, such that, you know, objects exist even when we're not looking at them. But the thing is, they're not there without us, not only our individual being right now, but the history of the evolutionary chain that led up to us. Organisms and their environments are not separate things. They arise together, not necessarily right now for your subjective consciousness. It's not that the bed arises when you look at it. It's that throughout the whole history of subjective organisms being aware of an objective world, they have both determined one another. It's not that the objective world determines the subjective experience, or that the environment selects the organism's traits through evolution. Organism and environment are interacting with one another. They're determining one another. If you watch the video of Francisco Varela, he used the metaphor of a bee and a flower. They evolve together. They're essentially one organism. The structure and function of a flower and the structure and the function of a bee are co-determined, and you can't understand one without the other, and one wouldn't exist without the other. The same type of relationship exists between subjects and objects, between organisms and their environment, and I'm not saying the objective world doesn't exist. I'm saying it's partly constituted by the subjective. That subject and object always arise together, and we weren't, as subjects, parachuted in as if from outside to an already existing world and then forced to gather knowledge about it. We've always been here. We're, in fact, a part of the world, not separate from it. So your final statement, if you define cognition as the process of living, we are no longer talking about the same thing. I am talking about informational processing used to perform actions. Information processing, I deny that that is what organisms do. Instead, like I said, organisms are directly coupled to the world. There's no need for any information to be sent, any signals to be sent, because we've always been a part of this world. There's no gap that exists between an ego and a world. There's no need for any representation. And that is very similar to Buddhism. Buddhism denies that there is a self, denies that there is any ground to reality. Buddhism has a different epistemological framework than Western scientific materialism. And certainly part of what enactivism calls for is a shift in our epistemological understanding of reality, and not just a new kind of science to perform. It's a new way of understanding what science is. So, is there an objective reality? Do time and space exist? Yeah, they exist, but only because we exist, because subjects exist. It's not that only subjects exist, and it's not that only the objective world exists. The two are they're commingled, they're intertangled, and it's very difficult to sort out which is which.